All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. Great high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Scratching the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
All right, welcome everybody. Monday night, once again, welcome to Bring It. I am your host, the Big Dog, and tonight we got the coach in the house. What's up, Coach?
What's up?
Good to see you. And we got Jai Shields in the house. What's up, Jai? Good to see you, man.
Big Dog, good to be on.
It's good to have you. Jai is the host of an incredible sports podcast called I'ma Tell It Like It Is. Make sure you guys download it, check it out. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, all over the place. Great sports takes. How often you drop new episodes, Jai?
Typically, it's every Tuesday. It's every Tuesday and Friday during the football season. But outside the football season, it's every Wednesday and Saturday. You get 2 episodes a week from yours truly.
All right. Cool. So go ahead, check out his podcast, man. It's dope. He's really on the mark. Everyone knows it's October. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We here at the ASAP Network support breast cancer and the research. So we're going to be doing all our labels in pink tonight. I'm kind of wearing a salmonish, pinkish kind of shirt, you know. So just kind of, supporting the cause. If you want to donate and learn more about breast cancer awareness, you can go online and check that out. Also, Domestic Abuse Month is this month, so please, do some research and check that out and support these great causes that the network stands behind. We don't support any sort of violence or anything like that. We're against domestic abuse and definitely want to see breast cancer research further along and definitely moving forward with that. But let's get into it. It is Monday night football tonight. Game kickoff in about 15-20 minutes. We have Buffalo and Tennessee. The game is in Tennessee tonight. And so far, Buffalo has looked like, probably arguably the best team in the East, along with Baltimore. Jai, since you're new in the house, just give me a quick take on tonight's game, tonight's matchup. Where do you see tonight's game going?
Well, Buffalo has done a fantastic job to begin the season. You thought that going up against Pittsburgh, going up against Washington, teams of that caliber with those weak offenses, and, Miami, who stinks and pitching 2 shutouts in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, you figure, well, maybe it's a fluke. Their they didn't improve that much on defense in the off season. They did improve themselves a little bit. But it wasn't anything drastic, and they went up against weak offenses. Washington's offense, not good. Dolphins' offense, has hit the wall, especially when they knocked 2 out early in the first half of that game. And, of course, Pittsburgh getting more than 17 points out of them was like sitting through a root canal. So, and you thought that, and then all of a sudden they played the Chiefs last Sunday, and they dominate on both sides of the ball. You had Micah Hyde get a tremendous pick 6. They forced many takeaways against Kansas City last week. And, of course, Josh Allen is having another MVP-type caliber season. I mean, their loss against Pittsburgh was kind of the kick in the tail that they needed, so to speak, to kind of wake them up and be like, hey, it's a new season. It's put up a shut-up time. It's win the AFC Championship or your season's a failure. And they really should be, along with Arizona, as the only team in the AFC undefeated at 6-0. But this is going to be, 5-0 because they haven't played yet. But this is a very intriguing football team. Josh Allen, one of the best arms in the game. He's a rough rider. He has that intangible about him that makes that you see out of all the all-time great quarterbacks of when the chips are down and when their back is against the wall, he puts his team on his back and he gets them home. And then, of course, on the Tennessee Titans side, they had a horrendous loss to the New York Jets about 2 weeks ago. And then last week they go on the road against Jacksonville and punch the Jaguars in the mouth. With the Tennessee Titans, it's just a matter of fact of what version of Titans are we going to get. Are we going to get the up and down, inconsistent Tennessee Titans? The Tennessee Titans are like that were dead in the water in the first half in their week 2, if not week 3 game against Seattle. Or are we going to get the Tennessee Titans that make the big time stop on defense and is able to get off the field on third downs? Are we going to get to Derrick Henry? It's going to run roughshod all over the opposing team's defense, and are we going to see Ryan Tannehill make the plays that need to be made in order to give Tennessee a better chance of winning the football game as a whole?
Yeah, you're spot on. Definitely great analysis on that. To me, Derrick Henry is the meat and potatoes of that whole Tennessee offense. They go how he goes, even though they've got better receivers now, but they still haven't exploited that receiving core. So, Coach, as a defensive coordinator, is the best way to stop Derrick Henry to put 8 in the box, or is there other ways to do it so you don't get beat on the outside?
You can have a drop down into a safety. Knowing them, they probably run more similar to a cover 3 because Tennessee, Buffalo probably run a Tennessee cover 3. Pretty much had that safety down in the middle of the field. One thing about Derrick Henry, you got to get him going sideways. Now, if you get him going straight ahead, he's not really like a bruiser runner. He's just a big guy that hits the hole real hard. So I think with Buffalo's defense, that D-line is going to put pressure. That, again, like I said, they can run a little man and mess around and do cover 3 where that safety can stay in the middle and pretty much spot Henry. So it'd be like an 8-man box.
Right. So an 8-man box. Now, Buffalo has proven that, they've got offensive weapons, on the outside and the inside. And it seems like Josh Allen's really been connecting with his tight end. His tight end has really, truly become his safety blanket, So as from Tennessee's side of the ball, do you focus on the receivers, Jai? Do you focus on the running back? Josh Allen's like a second running back there. So you kind of have to really almost spread out your defensive scheme all over the place.
You have to make sure that you stop the deep threat of Stephon Diggs, who to begin the season has not blown you away. Again, I think Trayvon Diggs' cousin has more touchdowns than Stephon Diggs does, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But you gotta make sure that Stephon Diggs doesn't beat you deep, because when he and Josh Allen are clicking, they're as deadly as any quarterback wide receiver combination in all of football. You also got to make sure if you cover up Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley is going to beat you. And then at the same time, you got to see if you can get a linebacker or two occasionally, because you can't, because you do it every play, they're going to take advantage of it. Josh Allen's like, well, all right, well, I don't have to run then. I'll just take what the defense gives you and pick apart the fact that you're going to have 2 linebackers essentially just stagnant, anticipating me to run. So you kind of have to give them different looks, mix up your looks throughout the course of the game, and make sure that you have a linebacker that's watching Josh Allen at all times, keeping an eye on him, because when the play breaks down, he's going to take off and run. And he's not the type of guy that's going to, run for pity pat for his little 5 yards and slide. This guy, he's a fullback playing quarterback. He wants to get hit. He wants to see if he's Derrick Henry and try to, juke and spin move and hurdle over guys to see if he can get that extra yardage. So you gotta make sure Josh Allen doesn't go crazy running the football when the play breaks down. You also got, just like you said, make sure that your defense is spread out to protect, especially the deep threat down the field, because if there's anything that Josh Allen knows how to do and knows how to beat football teams, it's by stretching the field and letting the ball fly vertically down the field.
And it's amazing how out of that draft class, Josh Allen has become probably the best quarterback out of that draft class. It's a highly touted draft class, but everyone was like, oh, Josh Allen's coming out of Wyoming. How's he going to fit in the NFL? But he's fitting in. He's making a name for himself. He's a star. He's definitely going to succeed in this league. He's got Buffalo up there, and this, if they continue on, this could be their year. So my pick tonight is definitely, I like Buffalo on the road. I think it'll probably be a closer game than people suspect. I don't remember what the spread is tonight, but I definitely like Buffalo to win. I think it'll probably be a little tight. So I'm picking Buffalo. Coach, who are you picking tonight?
I'm picking Buffalo, but this is Tennessee. This is a must win because if they lose this game, that'd be 3-3, and the Colts are coming. Technically, if you really look at it, the Colts should have beat the Ravens. So I really like. So I'm picking Buffalo, but I think this is a must win for Tennessee. They're gonna come out and bring it.
Exactly. That game last week, that was crazy. That Monday night game. I had that all wrong. I thought Baltimore was going to blow them out. Jai, what you got tonight?
Buffalo, by the way, is favored -6 points. So I'm gonna go with the Buffalo train. I think Buffalo's gonna win this game by the final score of around the lines of 31-21. It's going to be a lot of offense in this game. Tennessee's defense I do not trust. And Josh Allen's just having one hell of a season. And just because we've seen it in the past, just because Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry ran the ball tremendously in their game against the Jets 2 weeks ago, they still lost. So if the game comes close, I'm not trusting my life with my life on the line. I am not trusting Randy Bullock to make a big time kick. That's just all there is to
it. Exactly. And we know how much trouble kickers have been having the last couple of weeks in the league. All right. So you like Buffalo -6. I don't know. I like Tennessee with the points, but I think Buffalo will definitely win tonight. So there you go. All right. So let's move on to the action from yesterday. And probably there weren't many great games yesterday. But probably the game of the day, in my opinion, was definitely the Dallas and New England game. Dallas won in overtime, 35-29 on a tremendous play. CeeDee Lamb was wide open on an out pass from Dak Prescott. Although Prescott came down a little hard on his ankle, he was seen walking out with a walking boot. Let's bring our producer Tony in. Tony is our resident Cowboy fan on the show. Everyone's what's up, Tony? So Tony, I'm going to start with you first. So as a Cowboy fan living in Texas, what's the talk today as far as the result of the game, and what's the talk about the Prescott injury?
I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't lived in Texas for 3 years, so that's been a minute. The military unfortunately moves me around a lot. I will say though, as a Cowboys fan, I'm one of those. I'm pessimistically optimistic. We'll put it that way, because I mean, at the end of the day,
it's a good way to put it.
At the end of the day, it's the Cowboys. They win. They're finally getting to the point where they're winning games that they're supposed to win. They lost the one game that they were supposed to lose, and they were more competitive than what they were supposed to be. More all honesty, when I first saw the Tampa Bay game, I was like, yeah, that's going to be like 35-14 at the half. It's going to be 2 garbage time touchdowns, and Tampa's second string is going to come in, and Dallas is going to get a bunch of garbage time scores. But from what I watched yesterday, I saw a couple things. I saw Dallas's run defense just be non-existent. The Patriots definitely prepared with that 2-headed running back system. With 2 running backs, I don't even know their names, to be honest with you, but they just chewed up that defense with absolutely no issue whatsoever. You saw Mac Jones kind of do what Tom Brady did for the most part for 20 plus years. He dissected the middle of the field. He made a lot of good passes when he needed to. He's had one of the highest passer ratings out of any rookie quarterback in this draft class so far this year. And that's Patriots defense is still a very good defense. Am I going to say that they're a top 10 defense? No. If I had to look at them and rank them right now, I would probably put them at about 12th to 13th overall in the NFL right now. They stopped Dallas's running game, which is one of the big things that Dallas has been relying heavy on. That's why Dallas has been rushing for almost 180 yards per game. I think they're second or third in the league right now, behind Baltimore and behind Cleveland. So, I mean, that to me says a lot of volumes right there. And they flustered Dak. Dak had to throw for over 50 times. He ended up throwing for over 400 yards. That's great, but it still took you to overtime. And that's even shown that when Dak throws for more than 30 pass attempts, he actually has a losing record against teams whenever he does that. And a lot of times those have been garbage time stats. This is one of the few where Dallas was competitive the entire time. But I'll say, as a Cowboys fan, like I said, optimistically, if Dallas can be a more disciplined team, because Mike McCarthy does not have a very disciplined team. They had 11 or 12 penalties for over 100 yards. That is unacceptable. Like, Coach and I kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday in the group chat. You're going to have these holding calls. You're going to have small calls. You're even going to have calls that, even as a fan, Coach can remember. He said I was crying about it to a point. Yeah, I ain't going to deny that. I kind of was. I'll be man enough to admit that. But oh boy, here's our professional Cowboys hater. But no, I mean, to me, if Dallas can actually get on page with itself, we've seen what they do with mistakes. We've seen what they do with 11 penalties for 100 yards and penalties and just crucial killer moments. If they can get those figured out offensively, Dallas is a juggernaut that I don't know until they face a team like Buffalo with a really good defense. I don't know who really can stop them at the current moment.
Interesting take. Well, we want to welcome in our CEO, the OG of the ASAP Network, Mr. Freddie Henderson. What's up, Freddie?
What's up, gentlemen? How you guys doing? What's up, Coach Tony? I'm Jay. Nice to meet you. I'm Yoel. Man,
it's good to see you. I know you want to bring a little heat about the Cowboys tonight, so I'm gonna let you, since you're the man in charge, I'm gonna let you talk a little bit about the Cowboys here.
Man, I tell you what, I'm just tired of every week after these Cowboys win, everybody seems like they want to come after me because I'm calling them out. I mean, I can't go to work without somebody coming to me and looking at me telling me, how about them Cowboys? I mean, stop it. I mean, they stay lucky. They're blessed that the NFL, whoever create these schedules is soft as tissue, as Charmin tissue. I mean, stop it. I mean, you're winning the games you're supposed to, and I'm supposed to act like I'm just surprised. I mean, stop it. I mean, you beat the Patriots without Tom Brady. I mean, and then hey, let's not forget some people, Michael Irvin talking about we going all the way this year. How? You seen how many penalties in that game yesterday? They did not represent any level of a championship team. This is going to be the same team like we always seen year in, year out. They're going to have these Cowboys expectations way up here and really when they need to be right down here. I mean, stop it. I mean.
Now, Freddie, I do have to say one thing. You want to know why you go into work and you get how about them Cowboys? Because you live in Texas. I mean, the Texans are garbage. So, I mean, really, what else does Texas have at the current moment, man?
And they've been there since 2000. They've also been there since 2002. The Dallas Cowboys been around since the early 60s.
1960 to be exact. 2,500 franchise touchdowns since 1960. Fastest franchise to do that.
Exactly. Well, you brought up an interesting point earlier about the run defense. Next week, Dallas is in Minnesota against Dalvin Cook, probably one of the top 5 running backs in this league. So, Coach, I mean, how do you stop a Dalvin Cook? Again,
they have a bye week next week, by the way. Cowboys have a bye week.
They play the Vikings.
The Vikings
the next week,
right?
Yep.
So it's 2 weeks. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. How do you stop a Dalvin Cook? That's going to be their next project.
I mean, this is the thing. Like, I think we had this whole conversation. I had it even after the Tampa Bay game. In the NFC, there's 2 teams that the Cowboys can't mess with. It's the Rams and it's the Bucks. Because one thing about it is you have no pressure up the middle. All their pressure comes from the ends, so it's outside. So by saying that, you're small at D tackle. Your linebackers are small. They're fast, they're quick, but they're very, very small. So over time, they're going to wear down. And especially the Cowboys is time management because he shouldn't have went for it on that 4th down, gave him a short field.
That was beyond stupid.
Yes.
Yeah, the 2 things that's gonna really hurt the Cowboys is you don't have a rush up the middle, and you can't stop the run. You're small, and your time management from the coach. I think those are the 2 issues. If they're lucky, they'll play like the Saints. Trying to think, or even if they play the Cardinals, they have a great chance to win those games because guess what? They don't have a strong running game, and their quarterback they're mobile guys. They like to run on the outside. But anybody like the Rams if you saw Brady, what'd he do? He just slide to the left, slide to the right, and then he just picked them apart. I think that's the biggest issue. You don't have a rush up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And the Patriots exposed it because guess what they did? They ran all the run. They ran, and then they hit the middle of the field majority of the time, which is the issue.
Right, exactly. And that play in the 4th quarter, where they had the interception by Diggs, and then the next offensive possession, Jai, Diggs gets beat on the long ball. I mean, that was crazy in itself, you know.
Yeah.
He got beat on that. I think me personally, from my vantage point, how I looked at it, I feel like the safety shouldn't have bid as much as he did. Should have like stayed home on that play. But Coach, you brought up an excellent point. You know, the thing with the Dallas Cowboys is that I'm not really. Do they have issue on defensive side as far as stopping a run? Yes, they do. But when you have a player like Trayvon Diggs that's capitalizing and finding the football like no one else can in the NFL this season, I think they're going to be pretty. I think they're going to be straight.
But
And
let me
the
ask you
issue.
this. Can I ask
Right.
you this? What was
go ahead.
the Diggs with Brady? Because if you watch that game, they was bumming him.
Yeah. I mean he's kind of feast or famine in that sort of aspect. But the thing is that you really stress that I 1000% agree with that. It's going to hold the Cowboys back is their coaching. If you're Mike McCarthy, why on 4th and 1 are you deciding why are you deciding to try to kick the field goal in that situation? Go for the first, get the first down. It is 4th and 1. If you miss this, and it was no gimme, and Zerline has had plenty of issues missing field goal kicks this year, and you saw last week that getting field goal kicks longer than 37 yards was like pulling teeth with these NFL kickers last week. Get the first down. What are you doing? And then he sits up there at the end of the half and he's mismanaging the timeouts. In a situation where as soon as I forget the specific play, but the play ends, instead of calling the timeout right then and there at that moment, he likes to clock run, let's run, and he calls timeout to the point where it doesn't even matter. I mean, and then of course in the Carolina game, Sam Darnold, who at the time was undefeated, was playing excellent football. They scored a touchdown to put themselves out in front to break the 7-7 tie, and he's going for 2 with 13 minutes left in the second quarter. What are you doing chasing points this early in the game? Just kick the extra point and don't go for 2 unless you absolutely have to. And I tell you something, if the Cowboys get in a situation where they're in a big-time playoff game or they're in a game where if somehow, some way their division lead collapses or something like that, or there's an opportunity where they could, possibly steal the 1 seed in the NFC, I'm telling you something right now, Mike McCarthy is going to be the death of them. We saw it's whether Mr. McCarthy getting bailed up by high-end talent with Aaron Rodgers or the high-end talent of Dak Prescott. But I do not trust him in a big spot under any circumstances. His team is undisciplined. It's 12 penalties for 115 penalty yards. The Dallas Cowboys are an excellent team, and you're supposed to be who you beat on the schedule.
No.
And
Stop.
they did.
Hey, no, not excellent. They're a good team. We got to use our words.
Thank you.
Hey, look. No, because that's the problem. People use these good and great teams. No, they're not. They are a good team that has a lot of flaws. And like I said from the beginning, it all matters who they match up with. If they play the Saints, guess what? They don't run the ball. They spread it those screens. They're good at that. But if they play the Rams, even when they made the playoffs, and I told my Cowboy fans around here, if you play the Rams, they're gonna pound it. They're gonna run because they're gonna hit it right in the middle, and then they're gonna hit you with the play action. Those are the teams that give them issues because you don't have you in what's name's defense. He has D tackles. If you go back and look when he was with Seattle, and you looked at when he was in Atlanta, he had D tackles that were strong, and everybody else just was fast because you want to put the pressure up the middle to make them go to the outside to your speed guys. I'm just saying, but they're not excellent. They are a good team.
They're a good team.
Sir, I got to ask you a question, sir.
They can be. Now they are a good team, but I think offensively, they're one of the best offenses in football.
Sir, I have to ask you a question because you did come off a little emotional when you was talking about the Cowboys. Who's your football team, sir?
Cincinnati Bengals, but I'm no Cowboy fan.
Okay, I was just making sure.
I love to see him fail as much as the next guy, but I got to be fair and I got to be objective about it. Mike McCarthy. I mean, come on.
I hear what you're saying about Mike McCarthy, but I don't know how much blame you can really put on the man. And this is what I'm saying. I don't know how much control Mike McCarthy have down there in Dallas. I'm not sure who's calling those calls. The reason why I say this, And Tony, you can turn your head all you want. Mike McCarthy named Jalen Smith a captain on a Monday, and he was cut on a Tuesday the next day. You would think your head coach would know things like that. So I'm not sure what Mike McCarthy, who's controlling the calls down there in Dallas. And I just want to say one other thing about Mr. Diggs, because everybody wanted to, I understand he's having an amazing year with these interceptions. He really is. So far this season, he had most interceptions. Hey, we said that. He had the most penalties as well. And he's allowed the most receiving yards as well. I mean, let's not forget that we seen that he got burned yesterday evening and then in the game. Let's not forget that. Let's not act like that didn't happen. That's something Tony won't come on here and say that his dude and also got burned. So I just wanted to drop those gems on you.
No, man, look, don't first off, don't disrespect. Diggs is doing his thing. He's hey, if you go throw it, look, but he's shown that he's very deceptive to the double move. Again, when you play against quarterbacks like the Rams and the Bucks, they're going to take advantage of the Cowboys. And that's why you looked at it. If you watched the first game of the season, Brady was there. He was taking his time, and he was just killing them.
Yeah, Brady's got a brick wall to stand behind, as we all know. But that's a discussion for another day.
I'm not a Cowboys fan, and people be shocked. But they'll make the playoffs. It all just lines up who they play first.
But I do want to bring up one point to Freddie, because Jay brought it up as well. Trayvon Diggs is having a phenomenal season, and the fact that yes, he got burned, but DeMonte Casey even admitted on Instagram that hey, that wasn't just Diggs, that was him for playing too deep as well. And I don't care if Trayvon Diggs allows 2,000 yards from receivers this year. You know what he only has allowed one of this year? He's allowed one touchdown, and it was the touchdown yesterday.
But the thing he played, it was underneath coverage because he thought he had safety help on the inside. Because if you watch the play, he stopped thinking the safety was going to come right there.
Yeah,
because he paused for a second. So I understand that. I don't blame Diggs for it. But he did bite off that double move, though.
So before Freddie tries to say that, I won't admit that Diggs got burned because he got burned.
He did get burned.
Respecting man with 7 interceptions while
but hey,
throwing interceptions.
Hey, but you also got to look who's throwing the ball this direction. We'll see in a few weeks when Pat Mahomes throwing the football. Okay. We'll see in a few weeks when Kyler Murray's throwing the football.
Herbert,
I guarantee you, Herbert. I tell you something right now. With Mahomes is going to throw at least 2 interceptions in that Cowboy game.
John, let's bet that.
This Kansas City.
No, John, you don't understand. Where's the game at? Is it in Dallas?
No, it's in Kansas City.
Yeah, boy, I was about to say you just don't know, John. He's from East Texas. That he's coming home. He played a lot of games in that stadium.
Andy Dalton played a ton of games in Texas. He played back-to-back playoff games against the Houston Texans, and he lost both of them. So I mean, but that's a perfect transit with the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a turnover addiction. What made Kansas City so great during their little mini dominant run, if you will, the last couple of years, that they never beat themselves. They're beating themselves. The receivers can't catch anything, letting ball ricochet off their hands. They can't catch. They're fumbling the football. And I don't mean they get to the ground and the ball comes loose. They're running. They get hit or the ball gets, and you see the ball go like 5 feet up in the air. They're fumbling the ball left and right. Mahomes is throwing these bonehead asinine interceptions. I don't know what the heck he looks at half the time when he makes his. What he did yesterday, I have no idea. He's getting wrapped around instead of him just going down and taking a sack and going into halftime. Taking his humble pie and going into halftime with he decides to sit and try to play Superman, and he throws the ball up into the air, a little lollipop throw, and lands into the arms of the Washington defender to get the interception. They walk out of that. They go into the half with no points. I don't know what the issue is, whether they're not buttoned up, they're undisciplined. Their defense is atrocious. They can't stop a freaking thing. Their secondary is the equivalent of football Swiss cheese. I mean, it's just they're completely garbage. They honestly, and with all due respect to Kansas City, they honestly should be 1-6 because they are fortunate as hell that the Browns screwed up the punt and early in the fourth quarter in week 1. They lost the lead to the Ravens. The only game I give them, 2-4, I should say, because they did deserve to beat Washington because Washington stinks. But they're two really wins that I look at and I was like, okay, fine, whatever, are against the NFC East garbage and the Eagles in Washington. They had no business beating Cleveland. They can't beat Baltimore. They can't beat the Chargers, and they're losing to teams. And they lost to Buffalo. And they were non-competitive against Buffalo. They didn't even show up. And here's the thing, I worry about Kansas City. They're losing games against teams that if it comes down to tiebreakers or who gets home field in the playoff game, these are games that they're losing here in September and October. That might come back to bite them. Come January, losing to Baltimore, Buffalo, Los Angeles was in their division. These are games that Kansas City is going to want back. They're in trouble. They stink.
Jai, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Do you think they're going to make the playoffs? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
And that's all that matters. Nobody cares. Look. Let me explain it to you. Hey, teams like the Cowboys, Cincinnati, they care about regular season. Guys like Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, they don't care about the regular season. They just want to get to the playoffs. Because you know what happens when you get to the playoffs? That's the big boy league. You see, you talk about Josh Allen. Josh Allen he's starting looking real good. He's not going to win the Super Bowl. You think
come on.
What happened on week 3, week 4 against them? You got to, but see, this is the thing that people got to realize. They're 3-3. They're second. They're tied. They're second in their division. They have a cakewalk schedule of 4 or 5 games that they're going to spin off and win. And on top of that, you have to realize Pat Mahomes in that moment. We have to do a lot for our defense because they suck. So you take chances, you take risks, you do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, what you said, what everybody else said, they're still gonna make the playoffs. So let me ask you this, John.
Yeah.
Who do you put your money on, Cincy or Kansas City, to win a playoff game? Who you put your money on? Who you put your money on? John, who you put your money on?
to want to play at this moment and at this moment.
John, we're talking about playoffs. Come on, the moment. Playoff game.
Playoffs? We talking about playoffs?
Because everybody in here knows there's 4 quarterbacks. There's 4 quarterbacks that we put our money on. Legit 3. It's Tom Brady. It's Aaron Rodgers.
You got dirt all over it. You didn't look like you have a mustache.
It's all the situation because it's playoff games. Tony, you can shake your head all you want. And
no, Coach, I don't have one disagreement with that.
Tony, you didn't let me finish because I said 3. I'm going to add another one. And it's that.
Oh, hell no.
You're the only
Hell no. Hell no.
You can't say Dak and then not say Josh Allen. Josh Allen is an MVP candidate who, if Kansas City keeps this up, the Bills will be in the Super Bowl if Kansas City keeps this up. Granted,
they got to beat the Ravens first, though.
Come out. See, again, we got to start over. Pat Mahomes don't care about no regular season MVP. You think Tom Brady care about an MVP in the regular season? He said you can have that. I'm going to get that MVP in the Super Bowl, buddy.
Coach, I'm going to disagree with you on one thing. There are 2 quarterbacks. There are 2.
Because but what you got to realize, see, that's the thing that you got to realize. Like, it's a different mindset. The thing about them guys are they want to win every game, but if they don't win, it's not an issue because at the end of the day, the AFC is weak, right? It's very, very weak. Because the AFC East is a wash. The AFC North, who's in it?
Don't play for people.
You got Browns.
Don't put the Browns. Don't put the Browns because they had one good year. The Browns are the Browns. The Browns and the Bengals are the same boat. So it's the Ravens, the Bills. Put the Chargers if you want to, and who you gonna put? And it's the Chiefs, correct?
If the playoffs ended, if the season ended today, Kansas City wouldn't even be in the playoffs.
If I played a lotto, I would win $3 million.
Coach, I do got one disagreement with you on the playoff quarterbacks. There's only 2. There's Pat Mahomes and there's Tom Brady. I disqualify Aaron Rodgers. The man has won like 5 in NFC championships. He can get me to the
Tony, why don't you come on this show? Tony,
I agree with you. But here's the question, Tony. If you put the place matchups, Aaron Rodgers,
Turn that down, Nicholas.
Cowboys.
Oh, I'll still take Dallas because if it's the NFC Championship, Aaron Rodgers is choking
Put
every
this in
day,
your
all day, every day.
But he always beat the Cowboys, don't he?
He does,
If
but not in
it's-
that championship. He wouldn't.
He's always beat the Cowboys.
He wouldn't.
To be fair, if it's Rodgers versus Dak in the AFC Championship game, I'd go with Rodgers because Rodgers always somehow, some way finds a way to tear up the Cowboys. And if he's playing any other team, in the NFC Championship game, I'm not so sure. But get back to the.
But now, my last thing, the most important thing when people got to realize, man, you watch it and you listen to these quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers. They got destroyed the first game of the season. He was like, oh, okay. They understand that a season is levels. It's like a game. First quarter, second quarter, bye weeks is halftime where you evaluate yourself. And then now let's finish it off. And that's the level of it. So when you got guys like the Chiefs, hey, okay, we're 3-3. If you look at it, we could have been 1-5, or if you look at it, we could have been 4-2. But the reality is, we 3-3. Hey, we're not bad in the division, so let's just keep playing, man. Okay, we fumbled the ball. Hey, Pat, you can't do this, and that. Like, it's a learning because they're still in it. But go ahead.
Yes, but eventually, but here's the thing: you also got to factor in. Kansas City has been. Go back to 2018. 2018, they played. I believe it was 18 games that season. They got the second seed. 2018 got to the AFC Championship game and lost. 2019, 2020 they played. There's a method to what I'm saying here. Yeah. They played 18 games in 2018, 19 in 2019, 2020. They are with the added game this season with the 17. On top of the fact that even if they turn around this season and get the 2 seed, they're still going to have to play an extra playoff game. And if they have to play wild card weekend, in order for them to get to Super Bowl, that's 1 wild card weekend, divisional 2, championship 3, Super Bowl 4, on top of the 17-game season. So that's 21 games. It's also not just the fact of X's and O's and how they play and who they match up against and turn over the football, this, that, and the other. Is that eventually, and the Buffalo Bills realize this too, going to 4 straight Super Bowls. Eventually, where you're playing playing around 20 games a year competitively, going nose to the grindstone from early September to essentially mid-February. Eventually, you're just going to get tired. And outside of Mahomes, it's not like that team, outside of a couple of players, it's not like that team has a bunch of spring chickens on it. Kelsey's in his early 30s. Tyrann Mathieu been around the block a little bit. Eventually, it's just going to be fatigue. And that's why you can't sit up here and say, well, Kansas City, 3-3, they're going to be fine, because Kansas City's best friend is turning around this season, essentially running the table, go 14-3, and pray to God that they can get the 1 seed. Because if they have to play an extra playoff game, I do not like their Super Bowl chances, regardless who makes the playoffs in the AFC. If they have to play that wild card game.
Hey, this is my I know we got to. Okay, you mute. Big dog, you mute.
I said, Coach, you got the last word on this. I want to move forward.
Hey, that'd be true in 2015, 2017, but you have to realize in 2019, 2020, it was COVID. So everything now, they don't really practice as much. They do a lot of meetings. So they really pretty much take care of their body. But the thing what you got to realize is at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you just want to get to the party. You just want to get invited. Once you get invited, man, all bets are off, because when it's all said and done, you got to still realize something. When you look across that field, you still see Pat Mahomes. Just like when you look across that field, it could be a minute left. You still see Tom Brady. He's 40-some years old, and you still like, hell, I have to be. Hey, that's the thing that you got to realize, because you got to look at him.
Exactly.
I get it.
And look,
I give it.
and a few weeks ago, well, I think it was Cincinnati gave Aaron Rodgers 37 seconds or something like that. That's all.
Yeah.
No, that's all the time he
Yeah,
needed.
he turned into a
whatever.
bad man.
Exactly. All right, welcome Ray to the show. Ray is back. What's up, Ray? Good to see you.
What's up? How y'all doing today?
Thanks for coming, and we are going to celebrate with Ray in Jacksonville's first win this season.
That's right.
They won over in Europe. They didn't give Urban Meyer the Gatorade bath. I was kind of hoping for that would happen. So what's the buzz in Jacksonville after the win yesterday? You lived up there. Just kind of give us a little vibe of what's been going on since they won yesterday.
Well, like the national media is just trying to they deflate us after we got that one win, over in Europe and stuff like that by bringing out this article on Urban Myers again with a third count of misleading things. I know we've seen the videos. They said they got another video on them. It's a little bit worse than the first video. Got text messages from the girl to Urban Myers himself. So, national media is playing it one way and the local media is playing another way. We can't take away from the kids. You got to understand, Jacksonville didn't go there with a full their starting lineup. Miles Jackson was out on the defensive middle linebacker. They played with a special team linebacker, and Decoy Wilson. They played shorthanded on the wide receiver without DJ Shark. Marvin Jones stepped up. I mean, this team kept getting close, getting victories. And, and then they stumbled in that third quarter. The key in this game, they didn't stumble in the third quarter. They kept them a little bit at bay. They had a little bit of adversity. They came back from the adversity. But then again, you're playing the Dolphins, and the Dolphins got some, in Florida, and the Dolphins have some issues in their defensive and stuff like that. But you can't take it away from Lawrence. Lawrence made that one quick play in the fourth quarter with 4 seconds on the clock to get the ball quickly, and then have Shenault go get down with 1 second left for that 50-some yard field goal. But you got to understand, Jacksonville came in this 0-5 in field goal. They made their first field goal in this ball game. They made their second field goal in this ball game, and they made their third field goal in this ball game. So they did pretty good on the kicking team with Wright from UCF. So if you're looking at Jacksonville, is a positive win going overseas and getting the win. But I would like to have it here in Jacksonville itself to get the win in front of the home crowd.
Well, I definitely think they figured it out. Yes, Miami is definitely on the downside for some reason. Everyone was touting Miami to be a much better team than they are, but it's good to see them win. Good for Coach Meyer. Good for Trevor Lawrence. And they'll definitely get there. So cool. John, I want to go to you about your Cincinnati Bengals. 4-2. You got to play who's on the schedule. Hell. Anybody could beat Detroit. Alabama could beat Detroit at this point. They're so bad. But I want you to talk about the Bengals next week. They go into Baltimore and got to play Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. So how do you stop Lamar Jackson as the Cincinnati Bengals?
Well, to begin, first off, they've had a. If you would have told me back in July or August that this team would be sitting at 4-2 on October the 18th, I would have called you crazy. I mean, they've had a fantastic start to this season. The reasons why, I had somebody text me yesterday, why the Bengals so good, this early, this portion of the season thus far. Well, it's simple. It's the fact they have their quarterback back. Joe Burrow is that type of guy that when he plays and when he's on the field, he improves the play. He improves the play and he improves the mindset of everybody else around him, the coaches, his fellow teammates. When Joe Burrow's clicking, everybody's clicking. That's the first thing. They've been able to run the ball quite decently with Joe Mixon. One of the problems was when in the games that Burrow did play last year, he was throwing the footballs 30, 40, 50 times a game where you can't run the football, and he essentially has to try to generate offense by himself. You don't have to worry about that. Their offensive line is not the Hogs from the 1990s, Redskin teams, but they've improved a little bit somewhat. Riley Reid, free agency signing. Trey Hendrickson was a phenomenal free agency signing, getting him past the edge rusher from the Saints. He's done an absolutely phenomenal job. Logan Wilson, and I headed into the season like we are very weak at the linebacker position. Logan Wilson seems to be that strong suit. He's been one of the best. He's been one of the best defensive players in the AFC thus far this season. He's done an absolutely phenomenal job defensively, playing on the defensive side at linebacker. And of course, you have Jamar Chase, a pick that I said at the time on my show that I was going to reserve judgment, and reserve, me yelling and screaming and yelling at the top of my lungs about it. Let me see the season play out first. Let me see, how the offensive line does without, drafting a guy in the first round. Let me see how Chase does to begin, the first month or two in the season, and then I'll go ahead and I'll react and I'll scream and yell if need be. Well, I can't scream and yell because he's done an absolutely phenomenal job. Mm-hmm. The issues with the drops and telling the difference between our college and NFL ball have been a thing of the past. He right now, in my opinion, is by far the leader in the clubhouse for offensive rookie of the year thus far this season. The connection between him and Burrow is like it was for their 2019 LSU championship team. And then of course, Zach Taylor, who I am still not completely sold on, and I don't think he's a phenomenal play caller. But as far as motivating his guys to go out there and play hard for him and to go out there and go the extra mile, make that extra tackle, fight for that extra yard, he has that. And this team respects him. They play hard for him. They love playing for him, is from what I see from the outside looking in. But they've done an absolutely phenomenal job. And then as far as how do you stop Lamar Jackson, I mean if everybody knew that question, we'd all be rich. I guarantee you, Brandon Staley and the Chargers wish they knew the answer to that question, and he didn't even have a fantastic game statistically, but he still killed him. You basically have to be on your toes. You have to make sure you have to stop the run, and you got to make sure you stop the run against them, and you also have to make sure he doesn't beat you downfield using Hollywood Brown, who's had a decent season thus far. You got Sammy Watkins that's hurting, and then you also have to keep in mind about their wide receiver they got out of the University of Minnesota in the first round, Rashad Bateman. So, in previous Raven teams, it was simple. Just find a way to stop Lamar Jackson, stop the RPO, stop the Edwards and J.K. Dobbins tandem, and you'll be fine. Now all of a sudden, and I said this at the time prior to the season started, that the Ravens losing those two guys could be a blessing in disguise for them, and thus far it looks like that it has, because you're seeing Lamar Jackson win games and make plays with his arm and winning football games by throwing the football deep downfield. And you see, who can forget? You also got to make sure his safety blanket, Mark Andrews, is taken care of, because if you're not careful with him, he's going to. It's basically no different than Mahomes and Kelsey. You leave Mark Andrews wide open. Nothing. He sees nothing downfield. All right, we'll just check down to Mark Andrews and have him do the heavy lifting with the yards after catch. So, right. and I still have to see, and albeit I'm very thankful for the second place, 4-2 record, I still have to see the Bengals have not been competitive whatsoever, whether in Baltimore or in Cincinnati, against the Ravens and the Zach Taylor era, in the Zach Taylor / Lamar Jackson era, since those two have been newly a part of this rivalry. So I'm going to go in there the best I can. I'm hyped and I'm psyched for the game. Of course, it's a rivalry game. They're playing in my hometown, of course. We're a good team. We're 4-2. But I'm going the same way I did with the Packer game. Little to no expectation. If they win the game and if they play, great. If they don't, oh well. 4-3. They still have a long way to go if they want to be considered a big-time contending team in the AFC.
Exactly. Well, I know they have the Jets in their schedule, so that's a win. So you got that for sure, Coach. So it's interesting talking about the RPO. So it seems like that this run pass option offense has really made its way into the NFL. The traditional pocket passer is kind of a thing of the past. You've got quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. Even Russell Wilson does it sometimes. Guys like that. At the high school level, which is where you coach, right? You coach at the high school level?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, are they really, teaching the run pass option because you're seeing it in the college level and more at the NFL level now? Is that like they're really starting them younger on this type of offensive scheme?
I think it started the opposite. It started at the high school and the college level, and then what happened is, since they done it for, now you're talking about a quarterback ran RPOs for 7 years. You kind of adapted into the NFL, so that because like the NFL pretty much copycats from what the high school and college kids do.
Right.
Because the one thing about the RPO is if your line is not as strong, because teams just can't line up and just run dive. Like you can't get Derrick Henry or you got the biggest guy in the backfield and just run straight at people. Sometimes you got to trick them and you got to read. You just read guys. It's pretty much it's a pass. You're just reading it. If you want to load the box, that backer steps up. I'm gonna throw it right there. If you don't, I'm just gonna give it. So you're kind of in a lose-lose situation if you do it right.
Interesting, and you know, and it is interesting how the NFL game has changed. I mean, it's still a passing league, it's still a quarterback-driven league, but the style of the game has changed, as we said, from the traditional pocket passer. I mean, there's still a couple old school guys like Brady. Even Aaron Rodgers still is a little mobile. He can move around. Obviously, Ben Roethlisberger is a statue in the pocket now. I mean, last night they were basically the only reason they won is because Geno Smith, can't hold on to a football. But we're not going to Ben Roethlisberger's finished, but that's a conversation for another show. So yeah, it's definitely interesting how Lamar Jackson has basically transcended the game now. Like everyone was talking about Patrick Mahomes, and now Lamar Jackson's really stepping up and really playing his game, and his style of game seems to become the more of the popular trend in the league.
But if you look at it,
go ahead.
But if you look at it, you take like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's been doing that since he was in high school.
Right. Exactly.
Like Pat Mahomes, I coached against Pat Mahomes. What you see Pat Mahomes doing now, he's been doing that like at 15, 16, 17 years old. The exact same style, exact same play. So like it's what's good I like about their coaches, instead of changing the offense to fit what they want them to run, they change the offense to fit the players that they have.
Right, and that's what this league needs to do. They need to build offensive schemes around their players, and that'll make their players succeed. All right, we got a couple minutes left. I want to move on to baseball. The National League Championship Series has been incredible so far. 2 walk-off wins by the Atlanta Braves. Ray is a big Atlanta Braves fan. I'll let you talk about Atlanta for a minute, and then I want to just talk about how the analytics of the game to me is ruining the game. But we'll discuss that in a minute. So Ray, I want you to just talk about the Braves and how they've won these first 2 games at the bottom of the ninth.
Well, if you look at it this way too, you got to look at the Dodgers manager. The Dodgers manager is helping the Braves out because he's going to these analytics, what you're talking about. They try to do these quick changes and stuff like that. And Scherzer was going good, but then Scherzer came out in a thing to defend his coach, saying that he was getting tired. He couldn't make it another inning, blah, blah, blah. This, I don't believe in that one bit. I think he's just keeping his pride and trying to help the manager out. But, I mean, if you look at it, the 2 runs the Braves gave up was the defensive guy to come in center field. He misplayed the judge, trying to, basket catch instead of going out and diving for it and getting the catch like that to make the safe play. I mean, if he would have died for that, the 2 runs for the Dodgers would never have had it scored in the first place. But he's supposed to be the defensive guy, so that turned the game around for the Dodgers. But then when they brought in they got leadoff guy for the Braves now. He's been getting hot, and they brought in a guy that's going to challenge him physically and mentally to style of pitching. And basically, he just got that hit, and Roberts just played right into the Braves' hand all the way through the whole game. And then if you look at it, the first 2 games, what he's been doing for the Dodgers, he's been taking the starting pitchers out, letting his relievers go in. His relievers have now pitched, 4 or 5 different innings. Now we have not seen a full starting pitcher yet. Will Kershaw get the pitch coming up here soon? We don't know. I mean, what are they going to do when they go back to L.A.? But we know as Braves fans, we know what happened last year when they went up 3-0 on them. They went back to L.A., LA got back around and they just couldn't come back up. Is this going to be a repeat of that play this year?
Exactly. No, it's crazy. Both series have been interesting. Boston's up already 3-0 in the bottom of the second. So
6-0.
Oh, it's 6 now.
Schwarber went deep with a grand slam off of Urequity, whatever his name is. Bottom 2, 1 out.
Wow,
with Kike Hernandez off the plate as we speak.
And Kike's having an amazing series, playoffs,
And another thing you got to look at this too. Freeman has not hit yet. He's 0 for 7.
He has not.
And they're doing all this without for call. They're doing it without Freeman hitting the ball. Mm-hmm. You got unlikely heroes and the babies. I can't pronounce the dude's name. The shortstop, but they're doing it with him. They're doing with the guy the Dodgers didn't even want. They let him go, and the Braves picked him up.
Oh yeah, Jock Peterson, Jocktober they call him.
Yeah. I mean, what has he done since he came aboard? Home run, home run, home run. And I don't know if you caught the mic up when he hit the home run and went back into the dugout. Somebody's mic picked it up and said, F them Dodgers, F them Dodgers this, F them Dodgers that. They should have kept me. I would have been winning right now. But I mean, you got to understand. And if you look at the Braves don't do the analytics. If you look at, the manager, he's old school.
Right.
He lets his pitcher go all the way up to the 5th or 6th inning. That helps the Braves out because they're spinning out the bullpen.
Right. No, I mean, to me, the analytics, I mean, it's you could tell that it's not, and and Jai, you can, how Chris Russo talks about, the guy in the bicycle, the computer genius running.
Swing bike is what he swing bike with the fuzzy hair and the glasses and the UCLA sweatshirt.
Exactly.
Yeah, the analytics are just. They're running the sport. First off, they're prolonging the game because we got to sit there. We got to get this matchup, righty versus lefty. His matchup versus he hits 167 against this hitter in this ballpark when the temperature is 67 degrees or warmer. It's ruining the game. It prolongs it, makes it too long. We got these baseball games that take 5 hours. Like, for instance, I think it was game 3 of Tampa versus Boston last Sunday. That game started when Mason Crosby and Evan McPherson were trading missed field goals. That game did not, and it was a fantastic, riveting baseball game. But that game did not end until the first quarter of Kansas City Buffalo was already complete. They prolonged the game. They prolonged the game to infinity. On top of the fact, like you guys have brought up, they screw up themselves. In a regular season game when nobody's watching, you can kind of get away with that sort of stuff. When it's the big stage where championships are won and lost, when you got a few more people watching on television and the stadiums are sold out. When postseason baseball in October, it's a different animal than postseason baseball in April, May, June, July, and to a certain degree, August. It's a different in September. It's a different animal. And if the pitcher is rolling and is dealing, you kind of have to go with your eye test and go off your gut and go at what you're seeing. So you know what? He's rolling right now. He's been mowing him down all night. I'm gonna leave him in there. And Dave Roberts screwing up his bullpen. I had no idea why he didn't decide just to throw. He won 20 games, Dave. Go out there and have him pitch the game 5 against the Giants. Now, it didn't come back to bite him as far as losing that game, but look at the aftermath. Back-to-back games, he's tired out and has screwed up not just his bullpen, but his starting pitching staff in general. Why? Because he's flirting around with Urias and Scherzer, who's supposed to be his 1-2 punch in the starting rotation. He's screwing them over by putting them in the bullpen. For what reason exactly? You're the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I understand that part of the reason why the Dodgers are so great is because they have the revenue and they have the resources of the big market franchise, but they also mix in that Tampa Bay Ray, Oakland A Moneyball type aspect, and it's a perfect match, which is why they're so successful all the time. But they need to be more like the New York Yankees, Los Angeles Dodgers that they are. With all the money that they have and the solid starting rotation that they have and everything else, and less like the Tampa Bay Rays. Because you know what the Tampa Bay Rays are? Tampa Bay Rays are where we are, sitting at home watching Houston and watching Boston. And again with Kevin Cash, screwing up the bullpen again, second straight year he's cost his franchise. And again, Kevin Cash is a fantastic manager. I wish the Orioles had him, for Christ's sakes, from April to September. But once October comes around, they get too cute with the analytics, and you can't. This isn't TV. You don't know what's going to happen with these games. You can't script the ball game. You kind of have to go with the ebb and flows of the game, see what happens, fill out the certain scenarios, and then make your decision based on that. Not sit up here and say, well, results, what I see, what's happening in the game, be damned. I'm gonna sit up here and try to script out the game. Because you don't win championships that way. You just don't. And you got to be able to manage your bullpen properly and not wear them out. And that's what Dave Roberts has done, and it's come back to bite him. That's why they're 2 wins away from having their season ended and to be swept in 4th straight because Dave Roberts is screwing up his bullpen and is wearing them out left and right. And now he's starting to spread that toxic bullpen mismanagement to now where his starting rotation is turned on his ear because you got Scherzer who said, hey, my arm is dead. My right arm is finished. And then he's screwing up Urias, not using him out of the bullpen properly instead of him starting Game 5. It's an absolute disgrace. And then people wonder why. And then people also, on the other hand, wonder why baseball is where it is. LeBron plays the final 2 minutes and plays the final stretch of NBA final playoff games. Mahomes, Brady to go ahead and lead a game-winning drive in the game. All these other sports where the big-time athletes, the big-time player, they start what they finish. Baseball, right. For the reason that's not the case. I understand you can't put the genie back in the bottle, and I understand we can't go to the days where pitchers go 7-8 innings automatically. I get that, but when the eye test, what you see with your eyes and what you know from being around the sport, as long as these guys have been around baseball, if you see that a guy is mowing down the opposing lineup, and all your cards are played right, and it's a perfect storm, so to speak. Roll with what you have. You don't make a move unless you absolutely have to. You don't do it. You can't script these games. You have to go with what you see and go with the ebb and flow of what's going on in the baseball game, especially in the postseason, because it's a different animal. Different animal than a regular game on a Tuesday night in July where nobody's watching and the stadium's half empty. Different deal, different animal.
Exactly. All right. Well, we are basically running out of time here. I wish we could go a little longer, but we got Real Talk coming up next. So I just want to do a quick 30-second last chance to bring it. Coach, just give me one last quick take on what's been going on in sports.
Man, it's been good. Football, I've been loving it. Jai, hey, man, we got to meet again, man. Catch up because I want to hear you say, man, I was wrong. But it's all good. Hey, I enjoy it, man. Thanks, young buck.
All right.
Pleasure being on.
Okay, Jai.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Jai.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say it's a pleasure being on. I'd like to do it again sometime in the near future, big dog. Appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on. You definitely brought it tonight. Everyone who's been listening and watching, check out his broadcast. I'm going to tell it like it is. That's his podcast, an amazing sports podcast. You can also hear him on Mad Dog Radio as one of the more popular callers, like him and Mike from the OC and a couple other guys that we're going to have come through here. And of course, Ray, the OG. Ray, you came in late, but you definitely good to see you. I'm sorry we didn't get to hear a little more of you. Just give me a quick take about Coach Orgeron and LSU.
Well, Coach Orgeron and LSU, they did a mutual agreement. I thought that Florida game was going to be enough to at least think about him staying, but he went on ahead. I think he did it on his own. I think him and the university did come up with a term and his buyout and stuff like that. But I mean, his season was going on down. I don't think he was the right fit after Brady left and he trying to get the offensive coordinator. But you also got to understand too, they had some injuries this year. They had the two best corners, their number one, number two corner injured for the season. I mean, out. I mean, they had a star wide receiver out. I mean, it's a lot of injuries that happened that cost this team a lot of pride. In that Florida game, I watched that whole entire Florida game, and then the running back for LSU beat Leonard Fournette's, single season rushing record LSU. I thought that was going to stay for a while, but
right.
He did it. I mean, they played for the coach. I mean, they playing their hearts out. I mean, it wasn't no quitting this team for him. So, to me, I think they were still playing for him. They were hoping he was going to win out the job to win out the season. But, I mean, he's still going to finish out the season. But, to me, I think it was the right move at the right time. But who's going to be the next LSU coach?
Yeah, who knows? That's going to be an interesting off-season discussion. Well, thank you guys. You all guys brought it hard tonight. Thanks, Jai, for just joining us tonight. You are welcome anytime on the show. We'll definitely have you back. Everybody, stay tuned for Real Talk coming up next. Got an amazing lineup on this week. Once again, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So go check out, any of the breast cancer awareness sites. You can make a donation, support the cause, wear a little pink. All of us has been affected by any sort of cancer, but especially breast cancer. I'm sure all of us know someone who's been affected by it. And we will see everybody next week. Peace out.
Deuce.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. Great high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace up the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.